July 12, 2025. Russia unleashes 597 drones and 26 missiles in its biggest wave yet. Ukrainian skies light up with fire as air defenses scramble, blackout spread, and civilian shelters fill across Kyiv and Kharkiv. Just days before, Ukraine struck deep inside Russia, hitting fuel depots and rail lines near Belgorod and Rostov with long-range drones, igniting fireballs seen for miles. Russia is now recruiting 30,000 more troops, pouring fresh soldiers into the trenches, determined to grind forward no matter the cost. Ukraine counters with Western-supplied long-range missiles, drone swarms, and sabotage teams behind enemy lines. 3 years in, the war is escalating, not slowing down. Cities burn, economies crack, and families are torn apart, yet neither side steps back. The world watches as missiles rain, wondering, who is really winning? Or is everyone losing? Stay tuned till the end, because in this war of drones, trenches, and shattered cities, the real story isn't what you see in the headlines, it's what it costs to keep fighting. Russia's July 12 drone barrage wasn't random. It's part of a brutal strategy to exhaust Ukraine's defenses, hitting power stations, rail yards, and apartment blocks. Each drone costs less than the missile that takes it down. For Moscow, it's a war of attrition, pressure Ukraine until it breaks. But Ukraine isn't folding. Just days before, Ukraine's drones struck fuel depots deep inside Russia, forcing Moscow to move supply lines further back. Ukrainian sabotage teams have been active across occupied territories, hitting ammunition depots and rail lines that feed Russian artillery. In the muddy trenches of Donetsk, Russian forces are rotating in over 30,000 new recruits, hoping numbers alone will grind down Ukraine's defenders. These young soldiers, many drafted with minimal training, face drones, artillery, and anti-tank missiles the moment they arrive. Ukraine, for its part, is adapting. Using Western-supplied long-range missiles and evolving drone tactics, they target Russian artillery positions and logistics hubs, forcing Russia to spend fuel, time, and soldiers just to hold lines that have barely moved in months. While Russian state media claims victories, the cost is staggering. Over 1 million Russian casualties, wounded, missing, or dead. Ukrainian sources claim up to 430,000 killed, while Western estimates are lower but still brutal. Each day, funerals continue in Russian villages, even if the news never reports them. For Ukraine, the cost is also high. Soldiers fight in freezing trenches, under constant shelling. Civilians brace for the next missile wave, power cuts, and the fear of occupation. But for Ukraine, this is a war for survival, and surrender is not an option. 3 years in, this is no longer just a battle over land. It's a test of whose resolve will crack first, as each drone strike, each shell, each funeral adds weight to a war neither side can afford to lose. Ukraine has held out for over 3 years, but every day comes at a price. Tens of thousands of soldiers have fallen, with countless others wounded or missing. Families wait for news that never comes, while funerals echo across small towns and cities. Missiles and drones continue to strike Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Odessa, hitting power grids and apartment blocks, forcing civilians to live with blackouts and the constant fear of the next attack. Children study by flashlight in basements, mothers carry water through rubble, and generators hum in the dark. Yet Ukraine adapts. Using Western air defense systems, it intercepts waves of Russian drones, protecting cities that Russia hopes to break. Ukrainian engineers patch power grids within hours, and drone pilots launch counterattacks, striking Russian ammo depots and fuel convoys deep behind the lines. Ukraine's economy has taken heavy hits, with GDP falling and billions needed for reconstruction. Ports remain threatened, fields are littered with mines, and factories once humming with workers are now silent shells. Yet aid from the West keeps supplies and weapons flowing, allowing Ukraine to continue the fight. For Ukraine, this war is not just about land. It is about survival, sovereignty, and the future of its people. Soldiers defend trenches under constant artillery, outnumbered but fighting with modern tactics and precision. Drone units adapt daily, hitting Russian supply lines and positions to disrupt the artillery advantage Russia relies on. In this war, Ukraine is betting on resilience and Western support to outlast Russia's pressure. It fights not only for today but for the hope that one day, children won't need to hide from missiles, and families can rebuild without fear. Ukraine's losses are real, but its resolve is unbroken. To understand how we reached this point, we need to look back. On February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, aiming to seize Kyiv within days. Tanks rolled across borders, helicopters flew low over fields, and missiles struck airfields before dawn. But Ukraine didn't collapse. Soldiers and civilians blocked roads, used drones to spot columns, and fought in the streets. Russia's plan for a quick victory turned into a bitter war of resistance. In the months that followed, Russia shifted focus to the east and south, capturing parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, and the land bridge to Crimea. Ukraine launched counteroffensives in Kharkiv and Kherson, retaking ground with Western-supplied HIMARS and artillery, pushing Russian forces back in costly battles. Throughout 2023 and 2024, the front lines hardened into a static line of trenches and fortified positions, reminiscent of wars past but fought with drones and precision strikes. Fields became minefields. Cities turned to rubble. Both sides suffered heavy losses for small gains. Sanctions hit Russia's economy, cutting it off from Western technology and markets, while Ukraine's infrastructure was shattered by missiles and drones. The world watched as NATO strengthened defenses, and Europe scrambled to replace lost energy supplies. 3 years later, in 2025, the war has escalated again with drone swarms and missile strikes, but the roots of this conflict are here, in the failed blitz on Kyiv, the bloody battles for Bakhmut, the missile strikes on Ukrainian cities, and the resistance that turned a quick invasion into a war of attrition. To understand where this war is going, we must remember how it began, and why, even after so many lives lost, neither side is willing to stop. 3 years in, the Russia-Ukraine war has become a grinding stalemate. Front lines stretch for hundreds of miles, scarred by trenches, mines, and constant artillery fire. Neither side holds the strength for a decisive breakthrough, yet both refuse to step back. In the east and south, Russia holds parts of Donetsk, Luhansk, and the land bridge to Crimea. These gains came with heavy losses, with some offensives costing thousands of lives for mere miles of ground. Russia uses artillery and drones to hammer Ukrainian positions, seeking to wear down defenders with relentless pressure. But Ukraine strikes back. Using Western-supplied HIMARS and long-range drones, Ukrainian forces target Russian supply depots, rail lines, and command posts. At night, drone swarms hunt fuel convoys and artillery positions, forcing Russia to relocate supply hubs farther from the front. Trench warfare defines this war. Soldiers live in mud, rain, and snow under constant threat from shells and drones. Fields between positions are littered with destroyed tanks, twisted metal, and unexploded ordnance, turning advances into costly gambles. Air superiority is contested. Russia launches missiles and drones to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses, while Ukraine intercepts many and strikes back with precision. Civilians live under the constant threat of air raids, forcing families into basements when sirens wail. Both sides suffer heavy casualties for small territorial shifts. Each advance is followed by a counterattack, burning through manpower and resources. Ukraine's forces remain motivated, defending their homeland with adaptive tactics and intelligence support. Russia leverages sheer numbers, artillery barrages, and drone waves to maintain pressure. This is not a war of swift victories. It is a test of endurance, logistics, and willpower. The front lines are frozen, but the battles continue daily, each strike adding to the growing human and economic toll. In this war, victory isn't measured by captured towns but by which side can sustain the fight longer. And as missiles fall and drones hunt in the night, the world watches, waiting to see who will blink first. War of attrition. This war is now a daily grind of endurance. Russia pushes forward with endless artillery, drone swarms, and fresh troops, trying to break Ukraine by wearing it down, strike by strike. Each missile Russia fires costs less than the interceptor Ukraine uses to stop it. It's a slow bleed strategy, aiming to drain Ukraine's ammo, energy, and hope. But Ukraine adapts. Instead of matching Russia shell for shell, it uses precision strikes to hit Russian ammo depots and fuel convoys. Drones drop explosives on artillery positions and supply trucks, forcing Russia to spread out, move constantly, and burn resources just to hold the line. Both sides take heavy losses for small ground. Fields littered with burned tanks, destroyed drones, and craters tell the story. Trenches stretch for miles, with soldiers enduring cold, mud, and constant shelling, fighting for every inch. Economically, Russia's spending billions to sustain its offensives while sanctions and falling energy revenues squeeze its budget. Yet Moscow pushes on, believing it can outlast Ukraine and the West. For Ukraine, Western aid keeps fuel, weapons, and air defense systems flowing, but rebuilding cities and shattered infrastructure drains resources. Farmers clear mines from fields to plant again, even as artillery thunders in the distance. This is no longer about quick victories. It's about which side will collapse first under pressure, and neither is willing to be the first to break. As missiles fall and drones buzz across trenches, every day of this war is a reminder. In a war of attrition, the battlefield is measured not in miles gained, but in lives and willpower lost. Recent escalations. The war is escalating again. On July 12, 2025, Russia launched its largest drone and missile attack yet, 597 drones and 26 missiles raining down on Ukraine. Power grids were hit, warehouses burned, and air raid sirens echoed across Kiev and Kharkiv. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted many, but some drones slipped through, causing blackouts and explosions that lit up the night. In response, Ukraine struck deep inside Russia. Long-range drones targeted fuel depots and rail lines in Belgorod and Rostov, igniting massive fireballs that forced Russia to scramble its defenses and divert supply routes. Russia is also recruiting over 30,000 additional troops, pulling in young conscripts to fill the trenches. These new soldiers face Ukraine's drones, artillery, and sabotage teams the moment they arrive, as Ukraine focuses on hitting supply lines and troop concentrations before they can push forward. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues adapting its tactics. Drone swarms hunt Russian artillery batteries, and long-range missiles strike command centers, forcing Russia to shift positions constantly. Trenches are reinforced with new drone defenses, while Western-supplied systems intercept incoming attacks. For civilians, the escalation means another wave of fear. Families sleep in basements as sirens wail. Cities brace for power cuts. Farmers pause planting as drones circle overhead. 3 years in, each escalation brings the risk of a wider conflict. Missile by missile, drone by drone, the war is entering a new phase, one where speed, technology, and resilience will decide survival. This isn't slowing down. The stakes are rising. And as Ukraine and Russia trade blows, the world watches, knowing that the outcome will shape the future far beyond these trenches. Global impact and conclusion. This war isn't confined to Ukraine's trenches. Its shockwaves are felt across the world. Energy markets fluctuate with every missile strike. A drone hitting a refinery can spike global fuel prices overnight. Europe scrambles to secure energy as pipelines remain under threat, while sanctions and war spending continue to pressure Russia's fragile economy. NATO and Russia are in a tense dance. Military drills near borders. Fighter jets scrambled over the Baltic. Submarines move silently beneath the Arctic ice. One miscalculation could pull the world into a conflict nobody wants. This war has changed modern warfare. Drones now hunt tanks. Electronic warfare jams communications. Soldiers use tablets to call in precise strikes on moving convoys. Old trench warfare has returned, mixed with modern technology in a brutal new way. 3 years in, the question remains, who is really winning? Russia holds ground but pays with soldiers and a bleeding economy. Ukraine defends its freedom but loses cities and lives with each passing day. Both nations bear scars that will last for generations. And as missiles fall and drones buzz overhead, families huddle in shelters, hoping the next strike doesn't find them. For the world, this war is a lesson in how quickly stability can vanish. How technology can change battlefields overnight. And how endurance, not quick victories, will shape the outcome. We're tracking every drone strike, frontline shift, and hidden move in this war. If you want clear, real updates without noise, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Stay tuned. Because as this war continues, the stakes are rising. And what happens here will echo far beyond these trenches, shaping the next chapter of global history.